Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick Savage, author, artist, tortured soul, or something to that effect. Tonight I am hosting Drinking with Authors, sponsored by Four Horsemen Publications. And as always, we have another wonderful, talented author with us this evening.
Hi.
Chelsea Burton Dunn. Sorry, I'm gonna step over you. There's no talking. I just talk. You sit there and look like you want to say stuff. She is the author of the upcoming Dolce Obsuritá series, with the first book in the series, Unspoken Devotion. And because I could either make stuff up about the series or have you tell the listeners and viewers about it, I'm going to have you do that one. So tell us.
Yes. So the Dolce Obsuritá series is a mafia romance, spicy romance about a mafia family. There's so basically like the boss and his second children are having to deal with some pretty weird stuff. So the first book is the second daughter is about to be sold off to a rival mob, and that's happening just when the boss's son Leo comes back from work doing marine work. Not marine work, being in the Marines. He got honorably discharged and is coming home. I'm throwing all the lovely tropes in there. Boy and girl next door, liked each other since childhood, best friends, little sister, all that jazz. And also, military, coming home from the military. So, but they're not supposed to like each other because, Italian brotherly, he's worried her brothers are going to be pretty pissed off, and they're all mafia guys. So, with guns. And then she gets whisked away by the Irish mob, and he has to fight to get her back. And so, yeah, that's what Unspoken Devotion is about. It's pretty steamy, pretty spicy.
No, we all like
very
spice.
thrilling.
We all like spice. We all like the thrilling. You said some key words in there, and I want to touch on those and lead us into, the actual body of the show. But first, I have to ask, what are you drinking?
I am drinking, it is like a iced coffee cocktail. I had some cold brew, a little bit of almond milk, and some Kahlua, and just a touch of hazelnut syrup to make it, fall-like or something. So,
is it just is something you made up, or is it a drink that has a name?
It's something that I made up. I have it every once in a while because I am a coffee fiend, and half of my blood is coffee. So I also like it with my booze.
And you should call it then the CBD.
Yeah.
Yourself, yes. And because I have to also say what I'm drinking, because otherwise it'd just be authors having sodas. 19 Crimes. If I don't know if it's going to show up. My focus is kind of shit right now. 19 Crimes. It's the 19 Crimes red blend, aged 30 days in rum barrels. It's something. We'll just leave it at that, because I like 19 Crimes and I don't talk bad about things.
Exactly.
So it's a wine. But you said you were mentioning tropes, and you said the magic T word. So I'm going to ask you, is there a trope that when you're writing, you either avoid writing altogether, or when you're reading makes you put down the book and stop and DNF it?
I mean, I'm not a do not finish a book kind of person. Like, even if I don't like the book, I usually see it through. There are tropes that I kind of generally try and avoid. I'm not a huge age gap person. I kind of like them to have like similar life experience. But of course, there's in some of my other series, like the By Moonlight series, for example, my main couple has an age gap, but they physically don't, if that makes sense. One is a werewolf is like probably 70 or 80 years old. And then the other is a 30-year-old woman. So but he stopped aging at some point, and so
70,
I think
80, and 30 is very Hugh Hefner, Playboy Bunny in that age gap. So, I mean, it is still
yeah,
a realistic age gap on that.
yeah.
Uh,
So it's not. So that's not my favorite. I, but I won't say no to it either, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't think there's any. I'm not a huge love triangle person. Not that I won't read it, but that has to be done well because I feel like it's been done so much. So, don't want to have that bashing over people's heads. I
no,
try to
I no, I understand because anytime there's a trope that's done exactly the same way it's always been done, it kind of poses a question: why are we doing it yet again?
right.
I always try and think of a way to twist the trope just a little bit to make it a little more unique, little less than ordinary and stuff like that. So I definitely understand. So you mentioned you have an 80-30 age gap. I saw a
Mhm.
College Humor video, at least I think it was College Humor video, where they were parroting Buffy and Angel, except instead of
Yes.
being like 237, he's like, how old are you? She's like, I'm 17. He's like, I'm 37, but I'm a vampire. And she's like,
Oh,
ew, you're 30. And she's like, would it be better if I were 300? She's like, yeah, kind of. And it's funny because it's not actually any better. Um,
right.
so the question to you is, where does the age gap get, since you're not a big fan of it, where does it get gross? Like, is it a
Mhm.
10-year difference, a 20, 25-year difference? And then when does it become okay again? Because clearly 80-30 seems to be okay. So 50, is that the last of, or the beginning of the too much? Where does it go?
Okay, so I have kind of a weird thing about this. If someone is old enough to be the other character's parent, I usually say no. Now, in that particular situation, oddly, my main character's parents are potentially thousands of years old. So her parents, he's not older than her parents. That's how I kind of said that okay in my head. Now, but it had to work that way for the story. So that's one of those, like, I have like some rules, but they're bendable depending on how the story, if it fits with the story, I'll bend, you know? Um, but like if it was a non-supernatural romance situation, it would be, they can't really be older than, as old as or older than that person's parents. That's my
So
rule.
supernatural fantasy gets kind of a pass on certain limits, whereas otherwise they have to be younger than parents'
Yeah.
age. Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of my,
That is interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. That's just where, that's the weird line my brain went to at some point when I was writing. Because, as most writers, I have lots of snippets of things that might become something more someday. So,
No, and well, that kind of makes me think then, if because you said that you like to have similar life experiences, which is why you're not a huge fan of the age gap,
Mhm.
but somehow we'll make them legal, unlike in Buffy where they started illegal. So we'll make them like 20. A 21-year-old woman in a fantasy world has similar life experiences to a 500-year-old vampire. And I'm not calling
Yeah,
you out on the spot. That's just
right.
fantasy. That's how they do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think my whole thing is, so I often give my characters lots of trauma. It makes them intriguing and gives them lots of problems to work through. So it's usually their trauma is similar in some way. So then they can connect on that. And then therefore they have similar life experience. So,
That is perfect. And I didn't mean to feel like I put you on I didn't mean to make you feel like I put you on a spot there, which I guess makes me a horrible journalist. I'm not a journalist. I'm a podcast, so it's
yeah.
world of difference. Um, my buddy who helps me develop some stuff always points those questions my way, more so to make sure the world and the story is as filled out as it needs to be than it is to make me feel like, a piece of shit when I'm writing. Sometimes the lines cross. It's okay. love them to death anyways. But that's not why I didn't do it to do that. I did it just to see where you went from, and you gave me a good answer. So it makes me feel like you are also a very organized, organized writer when you go into it. You're not a pantser. I would put you as a plotter, but I could be wrong.
I call myself a plotzer. So I usually have an outline at some point, but my stories generally start as something kind of in the middle of everything. So most of the time I start with a scene that I think of, and then I build an outline around that to make sense with that world. But my outline is pretty loose. Like I have basically the story beats of what I want to happen, but kind of let it evolve naturally as I'm writing it.
Do you use SaveTheCat.com, or have you not heard of SaveTheCat.com?
Well, I heard of SaveTheCat.com from you.
From me? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know I brought it up before.
Yeah, in one of the other Drinking with the Authors interviews, you mentioned SaveTheCat.com. And I looked it up, and that was really cool. But I haven't used it. I did look at it and put it in our show notes, but did not use it.
If you're trying to write like mainstream stuff, and obviously we all want to make money at what we do, but if you're trying to write mass market fiction or submit a pilot, you know what I'm saying, like a spec pilot, like I'm going to write this episode of Psych, since it's off the air, I can say that, and submit it, and hopefully they'll pick it up, whatever. You use the beat sheet, get you where things need to fall and what pages, stuff like that. I looked at my first book, and the inciting incident, or whatever the hell they call it, which should have been on like page like 37, was like way the hell past that. You know what I'm saying? So like it didn't line up, but it didn't line up for reasons and stuff. So it's one of those things where anyone who's watching this and they go there and they're like, oh my God, it doesn't line up. Take a look at your work. And if it's not lining up for a reason and it works, then you're okay, but if it's not working and it's not lining up, then that means it's something to fix. But it's just one of those things where I'm a big plotter and you're a plotzer, as you call it. So it's nice to have the idea of what you want and then being able to work, within there. Do you have any, like, I'm just going to go right into it, just not even take a breath in between the sentence. Yeah. It's the wine already.
Yep. It's doing it.
Whenever my family comes into town, because they were in town this past week, we tend to drink more with them than we would in like the cumulative year before they came in.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so my liver is actually okay this time, but I'm just finishing off everything that they didn't finish. So just,
might as well. And then you can clean break back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. And prepare for the next show's recording and just do it all again.
Yeah.
Do you have a writing ritual? Like, does your desk have to be a certain way, or is there something in your head that you do to prep before you sit down writing? You just plop and go?
I wish I could do that, because I feel like it would work out a lot better for me. However, my life does not allot for me to have said ritual, because I would never get to write if I did. I generally like to sit in this one specific chair while I write, but that chair is currently, due to some construction happening in my house, blocked by lots of materials. So, but yeah, I have kids and obviously a job and all sorts of other things. So if I had to like have a specific ritual, I think I would never end up writing. But that chair is, I know it's really weird, but for some reason, it's like my thinking chair. I sit in my chair and I can write a bunch.
Well, in sense, then that being in that chair is a ritual of sorts.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not very complicated. I just got to sit in my chair.
There's nothing wrong with it. Not every ritual has to be complex.
Yeah.
I shave with a straight razor, like one of those Sweeney Todd style ones.
Yeah.
And My dad, everything I'm going to relate to is going to be about my dad right now and my stepmom because they were just here. But every day he sorts his pills because he's got like so much wrong with him from just surgeries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's on like all these pills every day, and he doesn't sort them out for like a week or a month at a time. He sorts out all like 20 pills every day. And he's like, it's my ritual. But then he was like, why don't you just use a 5 blade razor? You'll get a smoother shave. And I'm like, it's my ritual. It's my time
Yeah.
to, because I can't talk while I'm doing it. I can't have a conversation. I can't converse. I can look at myself and think and make sure I'm concentrating on me for that, 10, 20 minutes that it takes to shave. So that's a little more complicated of a ritual than just sitting down in your favorite chair. But
Exactly.
sometimes it's the ritual of doing
The thing.
the habitual thing that we do that makes it work for us.
Yeah.
And there's
Exactly.
nothing wrong with that. Music. You have, well, before I get to the music, you have many books out. Coming out or out, you have 3 coming out, and you have how many in the By Moonlight series?
There's 4 in so far in the By Moonlight series, and then I also have another series called the Dead Man's Hand series, and there's 2 so far. It will be a trilogy, and that book I'm finishing up right now, the 3rd in that book series.
So that book will be number 10. The one you're finishing up will be number 10, and you have 3 that are coming out. So you have a lot on your plate.
Yes.
And the inspiration that people need to write sometimes is visual, sometimes is audio. What do you listen to when you write?
Okay. Well, it's very dependent on which series I'm writing. So, um, for the By Moonlight series, I listen to a lot of indie rock, because uh the main character, that's what she generally listens to. There's a whole portion in, I think it's White Moon. Yeah, the 3rd book in the series that talks kind of about, she has musical preferences and she's discussing with her her mate. I'm like, not her boyfriend, there it's more than that. Um with her mate.
Your side
Jane.
guy?
Yeah. But she's discussing, like, she doesn't even know what kind of music he likes. And so they're having this whole conversation about music. So whenever I'm writing By Moonlight, I listen to a lot of that, like indie rock, Tegan and Sarah, and um, I'm trying to think of the other band that's like my biggest. I can't think of it right now because I'm in Dead Man's Hand mode. So I'm listening to more of that, which is very late 90s, early 2000s, like emo-y rock, dark goth sort of stuff is generally what I listen to, and also
Like,
classical music. So there's a lot of dark classical that I listen to when I'm writing that series. Um, so yeah, it's very mood dependent, which is different for the series.
definitely can relate to that. So Dead Man's Hand, can you tell us a little bit about that series?
Yeah. So the Dead Man's Hand series is about, it is another paranormal. So By Moonlight is about, werewolves and vampires and stuff, but that's more of a urban fantasy romance situation. Whereas the Dead Man's Hand series is about an immortal war that's been going on for centuries. And the main character is a vampire named Ace. Um, and there are prophecies that she has to try and thwart, and demons and other werewolves and witches and shapeshifters called chenjas, um and then in this coming one there's a lot more about demons and angels and the gods, or so they think.
Okay.
So it's a little bit uh bigger and more epic of a world than the By Moonlight series, not that, but it's a whole different world. And I actually started writing that series when I was in high school. That was the first book I finished writing, was the first book in that series, Bloodthirsty. So,
Very
yes.
nice. I just finished off my wine, and now my brain is like, "Oh, you're gonna relax and not do anything."
Yeah.
Of it's gonna be so fun. Of all your books that you've
Mhm.
written or are writing, there's so many questions wandering through my head right now. Um, of all your books that you've either written or the newest one you're writing, do you have a favorite that you just like?
Okay. It's not necessarily the book. But the Dead Man's Hand series holds a very special place in my heart because, like I said, it was the first book I finished writing, was Bloodthirsty, that I could call a complete story. Um, but I feel like, because like I came back to it after obviously like a lot of years, like 20 years, I came back to actually finish the book series and stuff. So I'm a different person than I was when I started writing it, and I find it a little bit harder to connect with the characters like I used to. So while I love that series and it's special, it's not my favorite anymore. Um, and honestly feel like probably because I connect the most to my character V in the By Moonlight series. Like currently, that series is my favorite to write. Not that I don't. I was obviously I love my Mafia romance series, but um, it's it's different relationships for each book. So it's not just me solidly following one character. It's this entire cast of characters that you're following for that book series. Um, And so following one character really closely, at least for the 4 books that I've written so far, and I am planning on there being 10 books, in that series, I'm very eager to get back to her story, so that's the one I love the most right now.
So you had said that you have a hard time relating to the characters that you started, 20 years ago, and you got back into it and you wrote it.
Mhm.
Whether it was that series or another series, how do you get into do you do anything special to get into the mindset of your characters, to get into their heads, to be able to write their actions and their dialogue and make them different, unique to the character, instead of just having 5 characters that all are interchangeable?
I think that's where the music for me kind of really comes into play because I purposefully listen to music that I listened to during that time frame, um, and that really helps me 'cause Uh, I mean, I used to sing opera and I used to be very musically inclined. So music has a memory, sensory, like I can like almost smell and feel things depending on what song I'm listening to, like being transported back in time. So that's why listening to the music, I think for me is so important and sitting down to write. Because even though it's harder because I'm a different person, I can put myself back into my teenage shoes and into these characters' heads a little bit.
Um, that is wonderful. And we've talked behind scenes and stuff many times. I never knew you were an opera singer. And no, I will not be asking you to belt out some notes, because singing over the phone and over the internet is not the same as singing in person.
Nope. But
But
sometime when I travel to come visit,
you,
I will sing for you.
you are
I'll plan some.
always welcome to come visit Florida. I do not recommend it. Um, just just one of those things.
Mhm, mhm. Yes.
Um,
Florida man might be real.
Okay, Florida Man is like, it's Florida Man became a thing because of the news stories where they're like, Florida Man does this and Florida, and then it became like this thing where like Florida Man is now like this mythical creature like Bigfoot. And I swear to God, and whatever the hell people believe in, that it's not even that he's becoming an actual thing, but it's one of those like manifest destinies. Like the more we talk about it, the more real he becomes. And
Yes.
it's like with each passing person doing something stupider and stupider, there's going to be like a king stupid, and he's just going to be crowned like Florida man.
The
And
Florida man.
yeah,
I thought it was, feel like Florida man is more like a state of mind. Anyone can be Florida man.
that's way too forgiving. Like Jimmy Buffett is a state of mind, pop on some Jimmy
Yeah.
Buffett, he wasn't a margarita drinker, despite the fact he wrote Margaritaville, was not a margarita drinker. And I'm not saying this like me and Jim were best friends. Like I didn't never meet the guy, whatever. But like you hear stories. I did serve Dennis DeYoung once from Styx, and he is not a drinker. I actually had
Huh.
to tell the person who offered to buy him a drink that he is not a drinker. He was a very nice gentleman, and this was back in the days of serving tables. I was
Mm.
serving, and I was like, Mr. DeYoung, this gentleman would like to buy you a drink. And he's like, tell him that I don't drink. And I was like, all right, cool. And he was very nice about it. And then I went back to his conversation, never spoke to him again, as it should be. But no, like that's a state of mind. Like Jimmy Buff is a state of mind. Florida Man is more like a suspense thriller becoming a horror movie. And I don't know, maybe it's calming down from the horror movie because I think we peaked with like the bath salts.
That's true.
And yeah, like the bath salts and like eating people's faces off. I think
Yeah,
that
that
was
was rough. That
that
was
was
rough.
peak Florida Man. All right. I have at least two more questions for you, and you don't have to rush through. I just talk fast so I can stay on track because ADD and alcohol do not mix. How do you name your characters?
Okay, that is also story dependent, but most of the time I try and come up with things that are meaningful in some way. Occasionally, a name might kind of inspire a character being created. Like for example, the character Carmen in my Unspoken Devotion, the first book in the Dolce Obsuritá series, I just really like the name Carmen, and I was reminded of it because I was listening to the opera Carmen, and I was like, I'm going to name a character Carmen, and that's why her name is Carmen.
See,
Literally.
I love classical music and I love certain ballets. Opera is a very different for me. You know what I'm saying? And it has to be very specific. So when you said Carmen, I was 1000% expecting you to be like, and Carmen Sandiego was playing reruns on TV. And I loved it because I loved Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
Me
That's
too.
where I was expecting you to go with, but you went with Carmen the opera. So I was kind of like,
Yeah. No, I mean, I also love Carmen Sandiego. There was some really, really, really rudimentary video game when computers were just starting to get into people's houses, like but that's only because my dad built the computer himself. So I played that Carmen Sandiego computer game. Just saying. So I love her.
it
Um,
was
but
wonderful. Yes.
it was. Thank you. Not very many people know about it or acknowledge it. So thank you. Um, but other times names have other meanings. So in the Dead Man's Hand series, part of what inspired me to write that series was I started drawing characters. I just was like drawing people as playing cards. And so my main character, Ace, is the Ace of Spades. And then I also have a character named Six, who is the Six of Diamonds. And then my character, Nero, is the King of Spades. And he is Nero, the Emperor. It made sense. So that's how those characters were named. So I kind of try and stick with words and names that are either mean a number of some kind or some sort of playing card reference for the most part. Not always in that series, but for the most part, the main characters have that sort of meaning. And then in the By Moonlight series, people's identity and where they're from and what type of supernatural creature they are, and all of these things are very important. So their names usually have some sort of connection to that. So Shane Keenan is the mailman character in the By Moonlight series, and there's a whole big thing about being Irish in Kansas City because it's based in Kansas City, as well as the Dolce Obsuritá series, which is where I'm from. I'm a Kansas Cityan. So there's a big Irish population. We have Irish Fest and a huge Irish or St. Patrick's Day parade here in Kansas City. So I put him in a very Irish Catholic neighborhood, and I didn't want him to have a name that was like super common in this area, but one that would fit well within the area, if that makes sense. So I selected his name very specifically for that reason. And then V herself, her middle name is a Native American word, and don't want to give too much away, but that is very meaningful. And her first name isn't actually her first name because the people who raised her weren't her real parents, and they had to change her name to hide her. So,
Sure.
yeah. So it's just so names are very important. I don't just pull names randomly. I do select them with importance. Sorry, that was very long-winded.
That's okay. That's okay. I agree with that. One last question before we let you do some shameless self-promotion. And this has become a thing that I do now in every podcast. What writing advice do you have for someone just starting out or looking to get into writing? Besides, don't do it.
My advice is always, if you have an idea, write it down. Doesn't matter. Because one of the worst things is when you have an idea and you don't take that time to just write it down, and then later you're like, oh, what was that thing that was so awesome that I could have expanded on or whatever? And I might have like hundreds of little snippets of scenes or even chapters or outlines of things. But they are all things that I can come back to and might inspire me. I mean, the By Moonlight series was something I wrote like 75 pages of, like the 10 years before I came back to it and kept writing it. And I'm glad I did write 75 pages of it, because then now I have, 4 books. So, yeah, just write it down. And even if it's a weird thing, who knows, it could blossom into something super awesome when you come back to it again. So that's always my advice.
That is perfectly acceptable and sound advice. Write it down. You heard it here. If you have a story, write it down. Sometimes it'll take 10 years to get back to, but you'll do it.
Yeah.
I like that. Yes. So where can we find you? Where can we stalk you? All that fun stuff. How can we join your cult?
So you can find me pretty much every social media platform that exists as @Chelsea Burton Dunn author. My website is chelseaburtondunn.com, and I am a Four Horsemen Publications author, so you can find all of my books at fourhorsemenpublications.com, as well as links to all of those things. And all of my books are available on that website. You can also find links to my books, to purchase my books on my website and most other retailers where you order books. Don't forget, though, you can request my books at your local bookstores, and they will get them for you. And your libraries.
And that goes for everyone. Go to your bookstores, get your favorite local authors, and request them there. And also request Chelsea Burton Dunn at your local bookstores, no matter where you are, because she should be everywhere. Yes. We're authors. We're just whores who write.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so wrong.
Ask for my books everywhere.
That's my books everywhere. And the wine has officially kicked in. I am warm. I am feeling it. So with that said, you know where to find her. You know where to find this. You know where to find me. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay schwasty.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.